All right. Action, take one. This is Jim Hoft with Gateway Pundit. I'm here today with my twin brother, Joe Hoft, editor at Gateway Pundit, and we're thrilled to have Christina Bobb with us today. Christina was, of course, with OAN as a incredible host for quite a while. Had a wonderful Saturday show, and now she's working with President Trump. And so, Christina, thank you for giving us some of your time today. We know that your phone's blowing up and that you're very busy. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on Gateway Pundit. I love all of your articles and everything you're doing. And so I'm excited to chat with you today.
Fantastic. Joe, welcome to, I'm glad you're with us. Joe is down there actually, of course, we're going to speak about the Mar-a-Lago raid. And my twin brother, Joe, was actually at Mar-a-Lago that night while you were inside the fence.
That's right.
And he was outside, so he'll have a lot to say about that. Maybe Christina, to start off, just for our audience, you've been a devoted Trump loyalist for a long time. You have always had his back. We've known you since 2020 election, where you fought so hard to get election integrity and to figure out how the Democrats were able to do what they did. Anyway, you've just been a wonderful friend for Trump. We were thrilled that he hired you and that you're working with him. But maybe you could tell us what happened that day in just a description of what went down.
Sure. I got a call around 10 o'clock in the morning that said, we need you to get down to Mar-a-Lago immediately. The FBI showed up and is raiding the place. So with no notice, I hopped in the car and ran down to Mar-a-Lago and met the agents and saw, that they were doing a search, and spoke with the agent, tried to get I tried to get a copy of the warrant. They didn't give me a copy until the end. But then we had a little bit of a discussion about whether I was even allowed to see that they had a warrant. I insisted. I said, you can't do this and expect me to take your word for it that you actually have a warrant. You need to actually show it. So they did. They didn't put up too much of a fight. I think they were just trying to see how far I'd push it, and I pushed it. And then at that point, they would not allow me to observe or watch anything they were doing. So I was kind of pretty much relegated to the Circle Drive, just waiting until they would give me information. If I tried to go into a room, if I tried to walk like I was going to follow them, they had agents make sure that I didn't. So, at that point, I can't really do a whole lot. So I was stuck on the Circle Drive waiting for the FBI or the DOJ, depending on the time of day, to give me an update.
Christina, you have a legal background, and I'm just wondering, here in America, we've always had, illegal search and seizure is something that doesn't happen here. And I'm wondering, does a president have those rights under the Bill of Rights, or
last I checked, yeah, I think that he does, but you never know with this Department of Justice and this FBI. They seem to believe that the rules apply differently. So yes, of course he's got those rights, but they are very much applied differently, and they have been targeting President Trump. And this is just the latest, most egregious example of them unfairly targeting Donald Trump.
And were you appalled with this response they gave to you that you didn't need to see it? You're an attorney. You're representing the president, and it seems to me like it's an outrageous behavior, and that they would try to, and a stunt they would try to pull. And I'm wondering, maybe that's what they're doing with every ordinary Americans today, who when they raid their homes, and it really makes you wonder.
It actually did do that. Initially, of course, I was more concerned with President Trump and Mar-a-Lago, but in the following days, I have realized, holy cow, if they're going to do this to Donald Trump, not only will they do this to normal everyday Americans, but they probably have been. They've gotten so comfortable not following the law, not following the rules, not respecting our freedoms, that they did it to the president of the United States. I think it's an outrageous step that they've taken to just assume that we trust them, and we have to just take their word for it, that they're doing everything correctly, and we can't check their work and we can't do any of that. So it certainly has made me reflect on probably what has happened to many, many Americans who have had their civil rights violated. No, I'm sorry, not just civil rights, constitutional rights.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Christina, as Jim mentioned, I went down there as soon as I heard that the president's house was under attack, basically, that it was invaded by by this corrupt DOJ, and just livid. Just like most of the people that were there was a big crowd outside, and the thing that grabbed me as I was walking up was seeing these FBI agents standing out front of our president's house with machine guns and a car blocking the way. Right. And I just thought, what sort of country is this? And where did these people come from? Where could you even find people that would do what they were doing? I mean, it's just, to me, it's criminal and unconstitutional, as you mentioned. And so anyways, you've been in the news quite a bit the last 48 hours, and I see you've just been really thrown into it. That there were some comments that you made. So you showed up, they wouldn't show you the warrant for some time. Then they apparently do. And there was some comments, and if you can't share some of the stuff due to confidentiality or whatever, that's fine. But you mentioned something like the warrant was very thin.
Yes. I just would have expected, if you're going to take such a big step to search the president's home, that you would have a lot of either supporting documents or, supporting evidence, or like very descriptive in the actual paperwork. And of course, we know that the affidavit was sealed, so they didn't give me a copy of that, and I was not allowed to look at that. So that, without the affidavit, without the supporting documentation, it's going to be real thin. There's not going to be a lot of paper there. And that's what I meant by it. There's not much support. It's flimsy. It doesn't stand on its own.
Could you tell who signed off on it? Not just the judge, but the prosecutor? Because there's been some information going on the internet about who that prosecutor might be.
I would have to check. I was specifically looking for the judge when I looked at it. I didn't specifically look for the prosecutor.
Yeah. Do you have a copy now?
I could find it.
Yeah. So President Trump does, at least his team does.
Yeah.
So that was another thing in the news. They're trying to say, well, President Trump has a copy. What doesn't he release it? Just outrageous stuff.
Right. It is not his responsibility to release it. This is very much the faux pas of the FBI and the Department of Justice, and it is incumbent upon them. And there is some consternation, certainly, but deliberation about what exactly is sealed. Obviously, we have a copy of the warrant, so we can do whatever we want with that. But I think out of respect for the process, the lawyers are trying to figure out, what can be released and what cannot be released. And there's hearings and court dates and orders, that they're all following the process. So I think the lawyers, want to get information out to people, but need to make sure that they're following the law.
Absolutely. Christina, I think we'll have you call back in. Joe's going to discuss what happened when he went down there on Monday night.
Okay.
And maybe explain a little bit of that, and then we'll reboot you back on while Joe describes what happened when he went down there.
Okay, sounds good. Did I go out?
Yeah, it's black. Yeah.
Okay,
it's
sorry.
Black and frozen.
No.
All right.
Hang on. Let me log back in. Let me see. That better?
A little bit better. Well, we see the background, but not you.
Okay. Because I'm not in front of the camera. Sorry, I'm over by the computer. Hang on. Let me see if I can turn this off.
So, Joe, you want to tell us what happened?
Sure. As Jim mentioned, I drove down there the other night, and I found out, just like everybody else on the news, I guess Jim actually maybe forwarded me that Trump's, notice that what had happened, and I was just appalled, and I just jumped in my car, told my wife immediately I'm going down there. And as I pulled up, it was dark. It was already probably 8:00, and you could see Mar-a-Lago from the bridge from afar, and I walked across that, saw some patriots, talked briefly, to a policeman, and some lady approached me. She knew who I was. She thought I was Jim Hoft. And so I walked up then to the front, and there, Dr. Gina Loudon was there. That's one person I recognized right away. And we can see you now, by the way.
Okay.
You look great.
I'm back.
And anyway, so from outside, it was, I guess, like I'd mentioned to Jim previously too, it was like, it was sad. I felt sad, and I felt angry, and I felt scared. I mean, when you have FBI agents standing outside our president's house with machine guns staring at us, it And then police cars up and down the street all lit up, and then a few people, protesting, saying this is, just in shock. I think there's a lot of shock on Monday now, probably more anger today. And then when I hear what you shared just now about the warrant that you couldn't even get it until later, can you tell us what they took?
I don't actually know. I mean, they weren't just, they weren't that specific with what they gave me. So we're still kind of waiting to figure that out. I think there's some indicators of pieces of information, but they didn't give, an index of every identifying specifically what they took. It was very generic. So I don't actually know. And yeah, so, but I share your sentiment as far as at the time it is scary, and you think, what's happening to this nation? How did we get here? And the further we go along, and the more I'm waiting to hear from the Department of Justice. Why haven't they issued a statement? Why haven't they come out and praised their great criminal law enforcement investigators for such a heroic effort? Why haven't they come out and really taken a stand on this? Instead, they're distancing themselves, saying, oh, we didn't know, we didn't have anything to do with this. They're kind of playing hide the ball a little bit because they're embarrassed and they recognize they've been caught. And now they're in the position where they need to produce something. You better have a really, really good reason for what you did in order to turn this tide around, because the American public are looking at this and we all know it's wrong. And the longer they go without coming out and making a statement, the more I kind of step back and I go, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing, because I know that President Trump didn't have anything at Mar-a-Lago, or, if they want to say they found pieces of, classified material or whatever. Okay, fine. But nothing of significance, right? There's no smoking gun of look at, he was negotiating with China, kind of like Joe Biden does. So the longer this goes on without a statement from the department, the more I look at this and I go, oh, you got caught, and you're not going to be able to produce anything to satisfy the anger of the American people.
Right. Christina, we've seen with this Department of Justice how they went after Trump before the 2016 election, how they went after him while he was in the presidency, and now how they're going after him afterwards. We've seen how the Southern District of New York, is trying to go after Trump. They don't even have a crime. They just keep fishing and hoping to find something. We see Congress now gets his tax documents, which they've been wanting forever. And so now they're another witch hunt, another fishing expedition, and now we see this document dump. I mean, they're raiding his home over some documents that were that he took, that somebody else packed in a box that he took with him, supposedly. It's amazing that they can continue to persuade a significant amount of Americans who are uninformed. As you know, they're not reading Gateway Pundit, so they're uninformed. And isn't it shocking to you that they can get away with this? Because there has never been any evidence. The only evidence that has ever been brought against Trump is something they created themselves, or Hillary Clinton. And is that just shocking to you, what you're witnessing right now?
What's shocking to me is that they believe they can get away with this. If you're going to lie about Hillary Clinton's emails or whatever, you can they can kind of adjust that, fudge that a little bit and hide. You can't fudge this. I don't think they're going to get away with this, because they have to produce a whale of a piece of evidence on Donald Trump in order to justify this. And I don't think they have it. And I think that's why they're quiet. I think that's why we're not hearing much from them, because they don't have supporting probable cause, and they certainly don't have a smoking gun that they found. I mean, they need to come out. What were they looking for? Did they find something of, real national security significance that they can tell the American people, oh, we saved, there was going to be a war or something. Yeah. That is the level of magnitude with which they need to come out, and they don't have it. So I don't think they're going to get away with it.
What about and I know Joe wrote something. I'm sure he's going to ask you about they had like a party napkin or something they were taking out of the place, right? Which is ridiculous. But what about these reports we had heard that maybe Trump had saved, he told the DOJ to release some documents when he left that have not been released yet on Crossfire Hurricane. There's rumblings out there that maybe that was at Mar-a-Lago and that the FBI was trying to cover their tracks. What do you have to say about that rumor that's going around?
It's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Crossfire Hurricane was somehow associated with this, but the documents, I don't know, but I don't believe they were at Mar-a-Lago because then they would have been released, So I don't think it's that specific. I mean, maybe it will be something tangential to that, but I don't think it was that straightforward because otherwise, I think.
You think Trump would have released those documents if he had?
Yeah, I think he would have declassified them before he left office and then released them if he had them, but that didn't happen. So I don't know. I'm speculating at this point, but I don't think it's that clear cut. I think there's probably some other ulterior motive and some type of ridiculous cover up that they're trying to do, but I don't think it's that clear cut.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing for how long now with the Russia collusion, et cetera. We know that, and we know the crimes that these people have done, and nothing happens. So this morning, in the same piece I mentioned earlier, you said something like that you think there must be something else because you're just not aware of anything here. And by the way, Jim mentioned Washington Post came out with an article that I mentioned this morning in an article that they said that somebody told them. Again, we're back to the Washington Post. Couple terrible leaks, by the way. One is Washington Post saying, "Oh, we know what they were after. They were after a party napkin, a birthday menu, and some presentations, some other garbage items that you're like, what in the world?" And so that so they're doing that. And then we also saw that they're starting to say, "Oh, there was a leaker. There's somebody in Mar-a-Lago that leaked," and then now they're throwing Jared Kushner's name down again. And it's like,
when was the last time he was at Mar-a-Lago? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. So what do you think about that? Is there anything?
I think it's all ridiculous, and I think it's an attempt to change the narrative. The narrative is, okay, balls in your court, FBI and DOJ. You raided the personal residence of Donald Trump, and you basically made a big show about raiding his home and trying to make him look like a criminal in the American public. And the press all looks at us and says, "What do you have to say about it?" Well, we're out here. A lot of the Trump team are doing media all the time on many of the networks, all day long. And we're going, we don't know. We have nothing. So I say, balls in your court, DOJ and FBI. What do you have? What did you get? What did you find? Where are you at with it? What catastrophe did you save us from? Because I don't believe they have anything.
Yeah, and Jim, you mentioned this the other day too, and this is kind of key too. Nobody had any pictures of this. There was nothing that we could see online. They hid this whole thing all day until that night.
Until the President Trump released a statement, and that's when people knew, and that's when we knew.
So they're scared of the image. They're scared of what they've done.
They
want to protect themselves, and I think seeing those machine gun toting FBI agents out front was horrific. That was our president's house. It wasn't their house.
They were trying to do it low key. Like they were trying to be as undercover as, a couple dozen
as 30 FBI agents can be.
Yeah. And of course, we didn't like it. We were trying to figure out what was going on. We weren't thinking about the press at the moment, at least putting it out. So.
Oops. Shoot. We lost her there for a second. I think, one thing I want to ask Christina when we get her back on is the fact that, and Joe, we discussed this earlier, but the fact that they were inside of the Mar-a-Lago, and Joe, you've been in there, I've been in there. It's a beautiful residence. It's a historic building. It's just, for any American who can get there, I hope you're able to, because it really feels like, talk about the people's house. He's had so many events there and has had thousands of people there. It's just a beautiful place. But the fact that they had gone for 9.5 hours tells me, and this is what I'm really curious to ask Christina, tells me maybe they weren't finding what they hoped they were going to find, because they scraped that place up and down and we don't know what else. Hopefully, the president will, and I don't know what his legal advice is telling him, but hopefully he releases that security camera footage, and that's something else we want to ask Christina about.
Yeah.
That'd be really telling, of course,
Yeah.
if we could get that.
So what do you think, though, about this fact that there was no pictures, no nothing?
Yeah.
You brought that up first.
I did. I noticed that it was really amazing. And then to find out later that we were tipped off about this, as you know, Joe. And but to find out later that, I'm scouring Twitter and Facebook and social media and trying to find pictures of these FBI agents inside Mar-a-Lago, outside, trying to find the news media that's going to be outside of Mar-a-Lago. That was another curious thing that didn't happen. There wasn't local news out there. There wasn't CNN at first, so either I'm sure CNN was tipped off. I'm not going to say the FBI doesn't tip off CNN anymore, but I'm sure they were, but they certainly weren't out there till later on at night when, Joe, you put a post up where they get chased away. But thank you, Christina. We were just talking about the fact that they were inside the Mar-a-Lago for 9 hours, and it makes you wonder, maybe they weren't finding what they hoped they were going to find. We don't have sound.
Can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh, she can't hear me. Okay. Anyway.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
There, you're on mute. It says mute, that you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
We go.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
great.
I think all my equipment overheated. So sorry, I've been doing a lot of media recently. I apologize. So I don't. If we take what they're doing at face value and say this was not pretext to do a wider search, they were just doing what they say they were doing. They were looking for presidential records and classified information, unspecified classified information. I don't know how, none of that, especially presidential records, which is nothing, right? It's just something that belongs to the president, I should say it belongs in the archives. Donald Trump is the one, or the president at the time is the one who designates that. It's record keeping. On the face of what they're talking about, it's record keeping. And so if they were just doing what they say they were doing, they were a bunch of glorified librarians trying to preserve a record.
Right.
If that's true, there is absolutely nothing that they could find or produce that would warrant the steps that they took. So I think they're in a bind because they either come up with what they say they were coming up with and said, oh, oops, there were classified information, in some of the boxes that moved from the White House. So that's a problem. Still doesn't warrant a raid of the president's house, or they have to say they found something else, unrelated to records keeping that was so much bigger and so much more egregious. And they out themselves on this was never what we were actually trying to do. They're in a bind. They're not going to be able to come out of this looking good.
Do you think they did this to change the narrative on this terrible economy and the horrible policies of the Biden administration?
Honestly, I don't. It's going to sound funny. I don't think they had a great strategy. I think the Washington, D.C. field office of the FBI has the most severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. And I think they thought that they could do this and the media would love it and the American people would love it. And you'd be like, yeah, we got him. And everybody would cheer. And they don't realize how out of touch they are with the American people. And when that wasn't the response, now they're going, oh, shoot, well, we didn't know this was going to happen. We didn't mean to do this. It was the FBI. I don't know. It was the DOJ. They're pointing fingers at each other. Everyone's gone radio silent. No one knows what the heck they were doing or why they were doing it. And now they're screwed because everyone's looking at them going, okay, you did this historic thing that's massive and violated a fundamental constitutional right of the former president of the United States. What's your explanation? And now they're like, well, I don't have one, Right. So I think they're stuck.
Mm-hmm. I've spoken with several of the January 6th political prisoners over the past year, including the Oath Keeper founder, Stuart Rhodes, who calls me regularly from his prison cell now. He's been in prison since February. He never even went inside the U.S. Capitol that day. He was standing outside somewhere. And he assures me, Jim, there was no insurrection, there was no planning, there was no coordination, and obviously that's the truth. That's the truth. We know that. We certainly have information on that. They're trying to piece something together there. I think that's their the big bonanza that they want to go for, is the fact that Trump had something to do with these people who went inside the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. But it doesn't look like they really are able to produce there either. We know that if they do come up with something, it's going to be completely bogus. So I'm wondering, do you think they were after the January 6th hoax?
I don't think this
material?
had anything to do with January 6th. I mean, maybe they thought that if they could get in under NARA, under the the National Archives Records Act, that that somehow they would find something related to January 6th. Maybe, but I don't know how they would even come to that conclusion. What basis, what probable cause do you have to believe that there's anything related to January 6th at Mar-a-Lago? Mm-hmm. So I really think, I genuinely believe this is just a really bad case of Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And now they're stuck and we're all just sitting here going, okay, show us what you got,
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and these really are, like you said, some out of touch people and really some wicked people too. I would include some wicked people. What they've done to some Americans. Joe and I, when you took a break, Joe and I were talking about the fact that but during the day, I mean, this had been going on since like 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning, and didn't hit the airwaves until Trump tweeted something or put something on Truth Social. And but what was interesting was, I've been doing this website blogging, reporting for quite a while now, and I didn't find anything out there. I didn't find any pictures. I didn't find the local news was reporting anything. I was very curious the fact that even the local stations wouldn't have people outside. I mean, if this was going on for 8 hours, it's just very curious to me that this didn't really catch on until President Trump actually released a statement.
Yeah, I think they wanted to keep it quiet. I do. And I think they were hoping they could just do this and no one would know. And they could announce this big victory of something that they found. That's the aha moment. We've gotcha. And it appears they didn't think it through, because this is a really massive step that they took. And it's backfiring big time.
Well, and as it should, Christina, you know this better than anyone. This is a threat on every American now. This is a FBI that's, and we've all historically supported the FBI, but this is an organization that's completely out of control.
Yeah, and you guys know from the work that you're doing with the January 6ers and others, and I think we were just talking about it, but they're doing this to Donald Trump. They've been doing this to others.
Absolutely.
Do you think, one last question, here's another thought that crossed my mind, is, are they doing this to get Trump's base totally livid, and then so they could frame them again for another January 6th?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I think we're all giving them a lot more credit than they deserve. I genuinely don't think I think they just assume, they're so used to dictating the narrative. They're so used to having the media as their puppets and lapdogs saying whatever they want the narrative to be and dictating reality, and everybody just kind of going along with it. But they blew this out of the water by going and raiding President Trump's home. You better have some really good hard evidence to back this up, because we're not just going to give you a pass on this, because we all recognize the significance of it, and we all recognize the threat to our own rights. And nobody's looking at this going, oh yeah, okay, it's fine. I mean,
and because we've been through Russia.
I'm sorry?
Because we've been through Russia.
Yeah.
So we can't trust them. So they better show something, because we can't trust them on anything. I guess they think they're going to play that same playbook again.
Yeah, they're, lather, rinse, repeat. That's what they're doing. And I'm all ears. I can't wait to see what they come up with. I don't think it's going to be anything good, and I do not believe it's going to be anything that satisfies the American people.
Well, I think the people are outraged. By the way, I know that there's going to be a protest this weekend in front of the FBI, I believe in Washington, D.C. And there is going to be a protest here in St. Louis, where I'm at. Joe's in Florida right now, but I'm in St. Louis, and there will be a protest near the FBI offices here in St. Louis on Sunday at 1 p.m. for anyone who's listening.
if the police officers open the doors, don't go inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's-
Yeah,
saying.
and if there's any violence, make sure you get pictures. You
Correct.
confront the person. You absolutely have to track them down, and also look out for Ray Epps. He might be active this weekend. Christina, when is President Trump's next rally, and will you be attending?
I am almost confident I will be attending. I don't know when it is. It hasn't been announced yet. I typically hear about them about the same time everybody else does. So
Great.
Wherever it is, I'll be there.
It'll be a barn burner, I can assure you.
Oh, yes, it will.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it will.
Well, God bless you for the work you do, Christina. You're just phenomenal. You've always been phenomenal. Thank you for joining us.
We're grateful
you're busy.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it so much.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Jim.
We are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in over 40 years, where the stock market just finished the worst first half of a year in more than 5 decades. We are a nation that has the highest energy cost in its history, and we are no longer energy independent or energy dominant, which we were just 2 short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for oil. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving behind dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world. We are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate a country, Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. We're a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never before. We've never seen anything like this. We're a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is about all you get. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant like never before, where the economy has been collapsing, where more people died of COVID in 2021 than in 2020. We're a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it's taken from the United States to build a military to rival our own. We are a nation that over the past 2 years is no longer respected or listened to all around the world. And we are a nation that is hostile to liberty and freedom and faith. We are a nation whose economy is floundering, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the bottom of every list. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. But soon we will have greatness again. It was hard-working patriots like you who built this country, and it is hard-working patriots like you who are going to save our country. There is no mountain we cannot climb. There is no summit we cannot reach. There is no challenge we cannot beat. There is no victory we cannot have. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. Ever, ever, ever. We will never give in. We will never give up. And we will never, ever back down. We will never let you down as long as we are confident and united. The tyrants we are fighting do not stand even a little chance. Because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and God alone. And it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.